So thank you all for joining our Haggerty Sub Sidewalk Replacement Program virtual meeting. We are eager to receive your feedback on the proposed program and will be allowing for public comment at the conclusion of the presentation by the Public Services team. To make a comment, members of the audience may utilize the comments section and the raise your hand feature of Zoom. We will address all of those members of the audience with their virtual hands up first. The moderator will address you by your username and alert you that you are able to turn on your microphone. Following the raised hands, we will read through the appropriate comments. We have information regarding this program on our website, vanburen-mi.org, including a frequently asked questions segment that may be a useful tool for you or something to share with your neighbors who may not have been able to attend tonight. Now, Director Best, floor is yours.
While he's doing that, my name is Matt Best. I am the Director of Public Services at Van Buren Township. I would like to welcome you to our public meeting tonight to discuss the sidewalk. There we go. The potential sidewalk replacement program. Tonight, I will go through a potential program that the township could implement over the next 2 years. And tonight is really to give the residents of Van Buren Estates, also known as Haggerty subdivision, an opportunity to hear about this concept program and to provide their comments and input and ask their questions. I will be here along with Ryan Nichols from our communications department to after a short presentation to answer as many questions as we can. We'll try to get all of them as well as ones in the chat. And we will also provide you an opportunity to get additional information, as Ryan said, on our website. So the goal of tonight's meeting is to make sure we get you as much information as possible to get your questions answered and to provide you with the basics for deciding whether or not you want to support or not support a sidewalk replacement program in your community. This decision has not been finalized yet, and that's why it is important for our residents who live in the subdivision and the township to get their information they need and to make an informed decision on and make their comment and position heard. So with that, I'd like to start with a short presentation that will talk about this program. So let me get this going here. The sidewalk replacement program. And we're calling it a pilot program because this is potentially, because there are subdivisions in the township that are just like yours, who are established subdivisions with county roads. This program is for potentially could be utilized in other communities within our township. So the Public Services Department was asked to look into the possibility of a sidewalk replacement program for the township. Over 6 months, this department has collected information, spoken to contractors, both concrete and construction, consultants, both engineers and designers, and reviewed other community sidewalk replacement programs. From this effort, the department developed the following information per the direction from the Van Buren Township Board of Trustees. A sidewalk replacement program provides an effective means to correct existing sidewalk defects. These defects include, but are not limited to, age, deterioration, cracking, disintegration, root lifting, settling, and damage from other construction activities. Now, repair or replacement of these defects is imperative to provide safe pedestrian travel. So, as a homeowner adjacent to a county road, the adjacent property owner is responsible for maintaining the sidewalk. The township has a responsibility as well, according to the that the property owners adjacent to these sidewalks keep them in a safe and well-maintained condition. If the township does not do its part to have the property owners maintain the safe condition, both the township at that point and the homeowner have liability if someone gets injured or hurt. Under the direction of the Board of Trustees, and because of the condition of some of the sidewalks in our community, the department has developed a sidewalk replacement program framework that operates by hiring an outside firm, an engineering consulting firm, to run this program. As I said before, staff has developed this program speaking with sidewalk contractors, consultants, and based it on nearby successful community programs. The costs that we're going to show you today represent industry standards and averages and pricing solicited from local contractors. So we just didn't get a book that had prices in it and used those. We actually went out along with our engineering consultant Fishbeck and contacted a bunch of firms and other communities and got what currently is the price for these estimates. Now, these are the best estimates we can get, and they may be a little higher than what you're expecting because as COVID, as we're coming out of COVID, and as you've been probably paying attention in the news, the infrastructure stimulus money and the COVID stimulus money are pushing a lot of projects to the forefront, which means contractors are few and far between, and these costs are going a little bit higher than anticipated. As part of our program, we've already put in some of that anticipation of cost into this, but please note these are based on the best numbers that we could get for the region. So we selected Van Buren Estates, the subdivision constructed in 4 phases, because of the condition of the sidewalks. Some of the sidewalks have been replaced, some of them haven't. Some of them have tree roots that have lifted up flags of cement, the slabs. Others have drainage issues that have caused undermining. There's also different pitches, slopes, and grade changes where one slab is higher and one slab is lower, and there's that edge. There's also a lot of cracking and spalling that have occurred. So this is one of the reasons why, with 719 homes, we felt that this was the best option. At first, we looked at Van Buren Estates and tried to divide it up into 4 sections, potentially splitting the cost to reduce the overall cost. What it turns out that by splitting the cost, they're splitting up the areas and doing them in smaller phases. It actually increases the cost because of the staging and equipment that has to be brought in and out of the site for 4 different times. That increases the cost, as well as the lining up a contractor for each phase may end up being more money. And so in order to present the most economical option with the best outcome, we've decided in this pilot program that we are going to present for your consideration, we're putting all of these together into the 716 lots. So for the sidewalk pilot replacement program, there are 716 lots in the subdivision. The average lot is approximately 60 feet by 120 feet. So that frontage is 60 feet. Now, one of the things that we're going to be talking about as we go on in this is the term flag. Flag is the technical term for a 5 foot by 5 foot area of sidewalk. So it's these 5 foot by 5 foot sections. These 5 foot by 5 foot sections called flags is how sidewalk contractors price out what they're repairing. The industry standard, what most communities do when they estimate how much repair work needs to be done in a subdivision, is currently about 40%. So for this pilot program exercise, we assume that 40% of the sidewalk needs to be replaced in Haggerty subdivision, with the average lot being 60 feet, with the 5 foot slab that turns out to be about 214,800 square feet. Of that, 40% needs to be replaced, so approximately 85,920 square feet. And the current industry average, and it actually might be a little bit higher, I've seen some numbers lately at about 8.5, 8.9%, or 8.5 to 8.9 dollars per square foot. So right now we use the $8 per square foot cost because that's what the average in our survey was. That puts just the cost of the replacement of the sidewalk estimated needing to be repaired in the subdivision at about $687,000, $687,000 and change. So we'll use an estimate, we used an estimated construction cost of that. There are also other costs associated with this. There needs to be someone doing the paperwork and assessment, and also there has to be someone for residents to call if they have an issue. This all falls under project administration costs. There's also the design fee, which allows for once, and I'm going to talk about how we assess these in a second and what the process is. But someone has to design the repairs and make sure that the contractor that are bidding on the job to get the best price are bidding apples to apples. There's also a cost to making sure the sidewalk is put in correctly and is has the right materials. So there, that CCA is the construction oversight costs to make sure that when the contract that proper concrete has been put in. So there would be some materials testing involved. And the last one is kind of a catch-all. If there's any additional fees that are associated, they kind of estimate if there's any other additional costs associated with the administration of the program, that's where that is. So that puts the total project estimated cost at about 1.1285 million. So I'm going to go back a second on here and talk about how we assess sidewalks, and I'll very briefly talk about the process before I get into how the costs will go through. If a program is decided, the contractor, if a program is decided to move forward, a contractor would go through and assess through an set of engineering standards what sidewalks need to be replaced and what sidewalks don't need to be replaced. They would mark areas that need to be replaced with a green, which is the traditional color, and areas that aren't marked are fine. Areas that are marked in red will always be associated with a township water and sewer utility. Those costs will be picked up by the township to repair. We're really talking about the green ones that are marked. Now, at that point, there'd be an opportunity to discuss whether with our administrator for the program, if you had a question about what sidewalk was marked green and why, and what sidewalk over here was marked green and why wasn't this one and why wasn't that one, there would be an opportunity before the program moved forward into the construction phase to have that discussion. But I kind of wanted to talk about that process for you. If you remember, they look at the slope, the pitch, the grade change, they look at spalding, cracking, and they also look at tree roots. If a tree root pushes something up, they're going to mark that because of the grade change. And we'll get to that a little bit, but I wanted to make sure we talked about that. So the biggest thing everyone talks about with sidewalk programs is what's paid for by the property owner and what's paid for by what the cost is and what it's going to be. So per the direction of the Board of Trustees under this private program, the property owners would only pay for the construction costs associated with the replacement of the sidewalks in front of their property. So this amount would be the construction and potential extra costs that go with that, which is called construction contingency. So when we plan out a project and we give an estimate, we have an idea of how much the construction will cost. But if it ends up costing more, or we find something else that we weren't anticipating that needs to be, there's always a contingency amount added. So you would only be paying for what is associated with the replacement of the sidewalk adjacent to your property. So with 716 lots in a subdivision in Van Buren's estates and an estimated 40% replacement rate, the average cost a resident would pay for the work, if we spread the costs out to everybody, just to give everyone an idea of the number we're kind of talking about, and we're not spreading the cost out, but just to give you an idea, is about $1,174 per property. So please note that the total construction cost will be determined. And so if the total project cost is $840,000, okay? That amount will be divided by the number of flags replaced in the subdivision. So we would get an amount per flag. And then the property owners would be invoiced for the cost of the number of flags replaced in front of their property. So if you have one flag, you'd be charged for the cost of what one flag ends up being. If you have 6, you'd be charged for 6. If you have 0, you've replaced your sidewalk, or you've taken care of it, or it's been magically, it's perfect still after so many years, you would pay for 0. But to give you an example of how that would work with numbers, under this estimate in this conceptual design, there are approximately 8,592 flags in the subdivision, so flags of concrete. It is estimated that 40% of those would need to be replaced, so that would be about 3,437. That estimated construction cost with the contingency built in is about 840,000. So if we do end up replacing all 3,437 flags, we would take the 840 total project cost, or whatever that project cost would be, and divide it by the total number of flags replaced to get a number per flag. In this instance, with just the construction costs and the contingency for the residents, the property owners to pay, it ends up being about $245 per flag. That if you take industry average right now is about $200 per flag, but in this we've kind of been conservative with our estimate to make sure that we're being as accurate as we can. That extra $45 is because it covers the contingency. So it's anywhere between 200 and 245 per flag in this example. So the process. So once the sidewalk is assessed and marked for placement, property owners will be given time to ask their engineer any questions they may have. And some of those questions may be, why did you mark that piece? That piece looks great. Why didn't you mark this piece? This piece needs to be replaced. So you'll have time to make that assessment with the engineer. You'll also be given time to secure your own contractor if you choose to do the work yourself. If you choose, there'll be an opportunity to contact the our 3 flags. Thank you for setting up this program and assessing which ones need to be replaced, but we've got it. In that case, you'd be given time to do that work, and you'd have to, the inspector would verify that the work was done eventually to make sure that when we do by the time it's time for construction, we know that the work is done. So you'd be able to secure a contractor if you could get a better price. One of the reasons why communities band together with these sidewalk programs is the more flags of concrete you have in a project, the economy of scale rule kicks in, and usually you get a better unit cost if you have more concrete to put in. So in most cases, not all, but in most cases, you can get a better price working with a larger group. And that's why we're potentially going to offer this program. If a property owner decides to move forward with the township's program, the work will be planned, designed, and completed. The engineer will communicate with residents and property owners to make sure that they're aware when it's going to happen, and make sure that everyone's got their items out of the way so the contractors can get in, get out, and do the work. They'll also give you an opportunity to mark sprinkler heads and things like that to make sure that the contractor knows that there's other things there they need to be aware of. At that point, once the work is completed, the resident would be invoiced for an amount based on the number of flags adjacent to their property. So in this example, $245 a flag. Mind you, that price could go up and down based on the bids if we bid this out in a long group. That invoice would be give you up to 90 days to pay that invoice directly to the township at the treasurer's office. If that amount isn't paid in the 90 days, you'll be notified that that amount will be placed on the property taxes for the parcel those flags are adjacent to. And that amount will be spread out over 4 years at 2%, which is what the township does for it's other programs like this. In any case, if the township, if you pay for it up front, or if you put it on your taxes, the contractor will come back and complete warranty work in the beginning of the next construction season, so that if there's something that's not right that they did and it took time for that thing to settle and it's not right, they'll come back and complete that warranty work to make sure that the sidewalk, the flags you paid for, are put in right and in great shape after 1 year. One of the questions that I got from a lot of residents was, what about existing driveways, drainage issues? So please, in this project, existing driveways, existing drainage issues, or other things that are already existing on an adjacent property are not going to be addressed by the sidewalk program. So one of the things that other communities do is, if you have a driveway that needs to be replaced, that contractor's going to come around and say, hey, you want me to add the driveway to this work, we'll bill you directly. You would get a much better price on doing the driveway or an approach, or just let's just stick with driveway. I don't want to talk about approaches. Approaches involve Wayne County. But if you wanted to get your driveway redone or sidewalk to your front porch or whatever, you could work with the contractor directly and do a separate project with them. And you're going to get a better price because they're already on site and they're already delivering concrete to the area. So you'll get a better price. So there's options to do that. But the township will not be replacing driveways, fixing drainage issues, or anything else that's existing on properties. Any damage done during or related to the installation of sidewalk would be repaired by the contractor. And now the discussion point that everyone wants to talk about: trees. So trees in the right of way on the road side of the sidewalk are the responsibility of Wayne County. And so if you want to remove a tree, you need to contact Wayne County. If a tree needs to be cut over there, it's the responsibility of Wayne County. Trees on the other side of the sidewalk are on private property and the responsibility of property owner. So the township really doesn't have any jurisdiction on the trees on either side. But what we will do is, tree roots that are impacting sidewalks will be cut and removed in the area where the sidewalk is being impacted, because we're not just going to put sidewalk up over a bad tree root again and make it work. We're going to cut that tree root. Now, in speaking with multiple engineers who do these projects, if it's one tree root that they cut and remove, the majority of the time, if the tree is taken care of, the tree will survive. And the township is committed to providing those instructions for tree care. If a tree needs to have a root cut, it involves some fertilizing and some extra watering. But it is my understanding, in talking with these sidewalk contractors and engineers who do this, they can keep these trees alive with a little bit of maintenance and love when a tree root has to be removed. Because the jurisdiction, this project is, the township is providing a service for the project to get done. We're not actually responsible if the tree dies, because we're going to provide you with everything you need to keep that tree alive. So, and with that, at this point, that's the basics for the program. One thing I didn't talk about is timing. And really that's because we haven't decided whether or not to move forward with this program. And this is where I kind of have to give you another estimate or a guess. Things that will happen if the residents decide they want to participate and the township board approves a sidewalk replacement program, we'll have to secure a contractor, which will take time. We'll have to bid that work out for the engineering side. So an engineer consulting firm will be brought in. That will take some time. Then we'd also have to do the assessments, which would also take some time. So this is probably a project that's going to take over 2 years. I don't anticipate at this point, if a program is approved by sometime this beginning of the summer, I don't anticipate this work taking place till 2022. So It will probably take us a month or two to select a contractor for the consulting side, and it will the assessments will probably take 2 to 3 months, and then the contractor selection will be probably done in the winter, and then in the spring, summer, we'll be doing the sidewalk replacements. So I know that I've thrown a lot at the members today of this meeting, but fear not, I'm here to answer all the questions that you have and try to give you the best information that we can. So with that, I'm going to defer back to Ryan, and he will talk about how we're going to handle public comment and questions.
Yes, thank you, Matt. As I stated at the beginning, but I'll repeat for anyone who maybe joined a little bit later, to make a comment, you can utilize either the chat or the raise your hand function of Zoom. And we will first address the raised hands, and then we will go through the appropriate comments in the chat. So beginning with Kay Hood, we're going to allow you to speak, and then all you have to do is unmute your microphone.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have a couple questions. As far as Mystic goes, if you guys proceed with this question, will it be the homeowner's responsibility to call Mystic for these, or the contractor?
The contractor would do Mistig for these, absolutely.
Okay, and then
Unless they decided to do their own, and then that would be the property owner's responsibility. But if you're part of the township program, we would do the Mistig.
Okay. If there are instances where roots will need to be cut, is that an extra cost or burden of cost on the homeowner to pay for that for sidewalk replacement?
No, at this time, we don't foresee root cutting being an extra cost for the homeowner.
Okay, I know this subdivision is all Wayne County roads, so I want to clarify approaches, driveway approaches. This is only a sidewalk program. You're not going to go back and say your approach needs fixed.
No. This
Okay.
is only for the sidewalks.
Okay, that's what I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so now we have a Larry Dobbs. We're going to allow you to talk, and all you have to do is unmute your microphone. Yep, it looks like you are unmuted and you can speak whenever.
Hello, Mr. Dobbs.
All right, Mr. Dobbs, I think we're having trouble hearing you. Maybe utilize the chat, or we will try you again in just a bit. We will move on to the next person, but we'll give you another shot. David Harwood, you can unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, or good evening at this point, I guess.
Hello.
So a couple of the questions I had was, you kind of sort of answered the question with the time frame. I'm assuming that since the COVID, the prices have been inflated due to COVID projects and initiatives that are going on at that time. Are you guys anticipating for it to drop significantly when with the projected start around 2022, or are you guys looking into even waiting to see if those prices will drop based on these the COVID increases?
Great question. I have been talking with other contractors just today who are doing sidewalk replacements for the DDA. Merlot Construction, who is working on Belleville Road and Tyler and Quirk today. They don't see prices coming down at least till 2024.
Okay. One of the other questions I had was when this project was originally brought up earlier this year, there was the original talks about with the administrative costs, including initial training, the new equipment, and that such materials and what have you. Is that still a part of this initial cost? And is that something that if it is, are we as this neighborhood taking that initial footing? And then as the other neighborhoods, if this project continues and is successful, is that now going to be a lowered cost for them because we took the initial hit?
Great question. Initially, when we presented the concept to the Board of Trustees, and I think that's where you may have heard that we put together two frameworks for the board to consider. The first one was a engineer consultant led program where we trained up our staff, bought equipment, and basically did it all in-house. Subsequent to that meeting, during that meeting, it was decided that the engineer consultant pathway would be the one that we would go to for the specific reasons that you just mentioned. We didn't believe we had the ability to do this in a economically effective way in-house. So the consultant is the best way to move forward here. Under this concept that we're showing today, the only cost that the residents are paying is for the actual cost for the replacement of the slabs of sidewalk.
Got it.
There's no admin costs, design costs, or anything like that added to the invoice that would be given to a homeowner.
Perfect. Yeah, just want a clarification, and I appreciate that. I apologize. I kind of had a pretty good list of questions that were going in here. Some of the other questions I had was, it's going to sound like a stupid question because it's quote unquote a part of the driveway. Is the slabs of concrete for the sidewalk that are through the driveway as well, is that also included or ignored?
So it's my understanding. Now our engineer is telling me, this is what my engineer has told me. So, and this is where I'm going to be doing until somebody tells me differently. If sidewalk slabs traverse your driveway, those would be part of the replacement program. Okay.
Okay.
Because some driveways don't have the sidewalk, they have slabs going across where the driveway is, and that would not be. That's my current understanding.
Got it.
That could change, and as we go through this program, if the township decides to move forward and the residents decide, that's a question that we will ask and make sure everybody knows up front as we go. But that's my current understanding.
Perfect. And then if there's something I can just add to that when you bring up that question, there's, for example, my initial driveway and then the sidewalk that kind of connects to it. It actually, some of the slabs sit on two property lines.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming that would just be split maybe 50-50 between those two lots.
I haven't actually asked that question of anyone yet, and I hadn't even thought about that. I would assume that we would split it 50-50, but we would figure that out with everyone, and everyone would be clear on that before we did the work.
Perfect. Last two questions, I promise. The last one with including the driveway. So you had noted that with the contractors coming through when they're doing the initial checks on the areas, if you touch base with them for doing driveway work, is that something that would be included, like how you said with the payments that would roll over into the taxes for 4 years at 2% added? Is that something that we could add on to that as well, as if we touch base with the contractor to do additional driveway work? Or is that something that would be strictly the sidewalk payment would go towards taxes and then everything else would be out of pocket on our end?
For this program, it's only the sidewalk. Okay. And you'd have to do any additional work through directly with the contractor.
Perfect. Okay. And then I think the last question is just going to be, just because of previous experience in other counties with sidewalk work, if there is yard damage from the sidewalk and things like that, from the construction materials and things like that, is that going to be at the contractor's responsibility to repair, or is that going to be left to us to clean up that mess?
Contractor will repair that. So they're going to have to be responsible because that's going to come out of their cost.
Excellent. I'm sorry I lied to you. We have a couple empty lots that are in the area as well that either have the damaged sidewalks or they have no sidewalk at all, as one house that was just recently torn down. Where would that fall under for those sidewalk replacements? Would that just be divvied out to everyone else, like it's equally to cover that cost, or is that something that would just fall on the township?
It would be billed to the property owner.
Well, the township is the property.
Right. Currently, the township is the property owner for one of them.
I would have to, I'm not aware of any lots that the township owns in the subdivision, but if we own lots there that need sidewalk repair, we would take care of them.
Okay. Perfect. I appreciate I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So next is a Mr. Bruce Skinner. We have allowed you to talk, so all you have to do is unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you so much. Just had one question, and if it's deemed that my property does not need any sidewalk replacement, and then say 5 years down the road, something happens and then some flags do need to be replaced, at that point, would I be responsible for the full cost, or would that be shared with the township? What would happen then?
So if the subdivision is part of the sidewalk replacement pilot program, if there's nothing that needs to be done over that period of time for the first project, it's really dependent on what the Board of Trustees decides to do if they decide to continue to offer sidewalk replacement programs. One thing would be clear as part of the sidewalk replacement program to get it off the ground, the township would be making people maintain their sidewalks from this point. And they would be reviewing the sidewalk and doing an assessment of the sidewalk. Currently, this is the only opportunity we have planned to do this type of replacement work where you can take advantage of the township's ability to put that over the 4 years at 2%.
Okay.
So in 5 years, you may not get that opportunity. The township may just send you a notice that says potentially that we haven't gone that far, but we could potentially send you a notice saying you have to replace these sidewalks in 90 days. Or something.
Okay. So if I chose, then if I'm like, well, I might as well take advantage of it now. If my sidewalks don't need to be replaced, could I just say, oh, can you replace them anyway and I'll pay, or would that not be an option?
I think that's an option that we can absolutely look into. I don't, if the sidewalk is at its end of its useful life, but is still, because all the sidewalks there design wise are past their useful life, right? Because they've been there for a very long time. But if the sidewalk does need to be, if someone wants to replace sidewalk at end of life, but it's not necessary to replace at that point, that's something we could talk about as very possible. You would be responsible for paying for the slabs just like everyone else in the program though.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Now, a Michael, we're going to allow you to talk and you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. One thing I haven't heard anything about are where the sidewalks meet the curbs. The sidewalk meets the street and it's just a 6-inch straight drop, and you can't take a baby stroller down the road. You have to basically go down someone's driveway to cross the road, or wheelchairs or anything like that. Are the curbs going to get cutouts and approaches handled at all, or is that not going to be part of this this replacement program?
So another great question. That decision has yet to be made about those where the sidewalks meet and cross and you have the one going one way and the one going the other way, or in some cases, we just have the one ADA ramp that goes down. We're not sure right now how we're going to address those because we haven't done the assessment yet. And so if the residents are interested in participating in this program and the township board decides to move forward, we would make sure to communicate with everyone before we got too far along what the outcome of those slabs would be. And I don't want to speak for the Board of Trustees. However, the number of slabs needing or flags like that needing to be replaced may be something the township would pay for because of where they sit. They sit in the right of way. They provide an ADA service. The rest of the sidewalk in that strip would be the responsibility of the adjacent property owner. That may be something that gets sprayed red as a township buy and not a sprayed green, which would be a property owner. But I think that's the pathway would go. But that really is going to be determined about during that assessment phase and how many we have and how many we have to deal with and what's the fairest way to do it too. So
Right. Yeah, sure. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Cause there is not, I'm positive there is not one ADA slope ramp on any of the sidewalks in the subdivision. And that basically it's been like that, and the tree root tree roots have been the big problems, but all right, well, great, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll add to that while we're switching to the next person. Really the key here is the one that's going to be the biggest, the one that would be the biggest impact is going to be what's in front of the properties. And that's why we're really been focusing on whether or not residents are interested in participating in this type of program, because that's where the biggest impact to them is going to be. So.
All right, and now Kay Hood, your hand is raised once more. You can unmute yourself.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, one other question. What's the criteria for replacement? What's the mile marker? Like, is it 1 inch, 2 inch, trip hazard stuff? I mean, or is it a slope? Is it just?
It's a combination of factors that define what slabs need to be replaced. There's a set of engineering standards that are set up by the industry and by this what was it? I knew someone was going to ask this and I didn't remind myself. There's a guidebook that talks about what makes a sidewalk safe. It talks about how many what the height is, what the slope is. I don't have them all memorized, but it's a combination of factors. The best answer I can give you is before we go to the board of trustees because all the residents are going to get another opportunity to provide comment, and this isn't the only opportunity. Before we go to the board, we'll have that kind of laid out, because if residents came to this meeting and said, we're not interested in doing this, we weren't detailed oriented sheet that provides all that detail.
Right.
So there is a set of standards. There's briefly it's grade change or separation. So if you have a gap, either up or down, either way. Slope, it has to be a certain slope. Pitch, which is the back and forth, and then spalding and cracking.
Okay.
And then there's complete failure where the sidewalk isn't there anymore, which happens a lot.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, and then the ADA, the sub does not have them. And I would, as a resident of the subdivision, I'd be willing to, take some of that on because we need them. I have several residents in this community that are being picked up. They're in wheelchairs. They're just, I don't have a problem with that. That's just me personally.
Yeah.
I think that's what I have now, for now. I might come up with something else.
Okay, see you in a minute.
All right.
All right. And then Mr. Larry Dobbs, we're going to give you one more shot, see if you can get your mic working this time. And if not, I did see that you put something in the chat. So you are able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good, good. I have just measured my flats or flags, whatever you call them. They
Yeah.
are 4 foot by 4 foot. They ain't nowhere near 5 foot by 5 foot. Now you figured in these prices, that's a slab, a half a flat.
We figured in the prices based on 5 foot by 5 foot flags. And so when we measured the distance, the linear distance, and then estimated 5 foot by 5 foot flags. And that's what our engineers, the standard is right now for sidewalks. And so what you have in there right now gives you just a kind of what's in there right now with the 4 foot by 4 foot slab is going to give you a general idea of what you're going to have, but the slabs that end up going in are going to be just slightly bigger, just slightly bigger, but it's going to be the same square footage that we replace. So the price still holds because it's based on square footage.
I don't quite understand how you can make my sidewalk a foot wider than what it is already.
No, it's the cost estimate is going to end up being the same because it was.
You just said you're gonna make my sidewalk wider. How are you gonna make it wider without doing the whole sidewalk? And then you're gonna do the neighbor's sidewalk the same way. This don't add up. Apples and oranges don't add up. I'm sorry. 4 foot by 4 foot is not the same as a 5 foot by 5 foot. The prices are totally different.
So,
I don't know where you got your figures from, but I've been dealing with concrete and work most of my life. When you figure an estimate, you figure exactly the square footage is out there. You don't add another foot to it and figure that price. I don't got deep pockets. My pockets are very shallow. I have a very light income. And it's going to hurt me big time if you come out here and start painting green dots on my flats.
okay. I completely understand that.
Most people don't. I mean, I just heard a lot of your people saying on there, they're all for it. They must have deep pockets. I don't got deep pockets. And with this pandemic, I got hurt pretty bad.
And these are the kind of comments that we need to hear from residents. And that's why we're having this public outreach to you and your neighbors today to hear these exact.
I understand that there are some trip hazards out there. I mean, that's due to tree roots. I understand that.
Right.
But there's a lot of elderly people in here. They couldn't afford to accept that type of money.
Right. I know. It's a completely valid point, and one that, as you notice, we're recording tonight's comments, and all your comments are going to be compiled together, and questions and all going to be compiled so that everyone has access to everything that everyone said. So, Mr. Dobbs, I understand that if the field condition is 4 foot by 4 foot, we're going to put the same square footage amount. It'll just be cheaper because the price isn't going to change, right? The price per square foot isn't going to change. So the price would, if they're 4 foot by 4 foot in some areas like yours, it's going to end up being cheaper. That's all. That's the big difference. They will end up being slightly bigger, but the square footage won't change.
Okay, I understand that point, but like I say, when you figure in the amount of concrete going in, when you start figuring the price of somebody putting it in, they charge for a 5 foot flat, and mine is a 4 foot by 4 foot. That's that's actually another. And I just don't see the estimate there.
Right. Well, what we did was gave the industry standard and gave everybody a number that we believe is a good estimate based on the costs in the region. If what you're saying is true and 4 foot by 4 foot flags or slabs are in the entire thing, the price is just going to be cheaper because the $8 per square foot estimate, that's the region-wide standard. So it'll actually be cheaper. We're not going to overcharge you if we only put in 4 foot by 4 foot slabs. That's not going to happen.
Okay.
Can I ask
Think
a
it this
question? Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay, so a couple of things, and I apologize for stepping in a little. I may have missed some of these. My question is that first off, is that the letter clearly stated that everybody's going to be assessed $1,600 straight out. Okay, the letter clearly says that. On the first page, on that paragraph, it says every homeowner will be assessed $1,600, and it says it's for the concrete. Second thing is that on the back side, then it clearly says that there will be a walk of who really needs slabs. So if you only need 2 or 3 slab replacement, then that, of course, will only be the slabs that are being replaced. So
Correct.
my first question is that who's going to be out walking the subdivision, assessing what slabs need to be replaced, and when are they going to do that for whenever the homeowner is going to be at home? So who's going to be walking the subdivision doing that?
I got it. So there's three questions there. The first one, the $1,600, that was just an estimate. If everyone paid equally for the total cost, that's what it would break down to. But that's not what's happening. You're only paying for the cost of the replacement of the concrete. Currently, based on the estimate, it's about $245 a slab. Okay, that's just for this estimate. It could be more, could be less, especially if the slabs in front of your house are 4 feet by 4 feet. It would be cheaper because the price is based on square footage. The second question is, who's going to be doing the work? Well, it would be
no, who's walking the subdivision?
Who's doing the assessment? So we would be hiring an engineering firm that will be walking and doing assessments, and they would paint the sidewalk different colors. You'd have green would mean property owner, it needs to be repaired. Red if there's if the township is paying for it to be repaired, and if they don't touch it, that means it's fine. And then there'll be an opportunity for property owners to contact the engineer and ask questions. Well, why this one? Why that one? And while that was time consuming, and it's important to do.
Okay, so now I have a question, is that you said that if everybody chipped in. So my statement is that, and my question is that why would one homeowner who does not need any repairs just put in a new sidewalk? Why would that homeowner would have to chip in to pay for someone else?
They wouldn't be. You're only under this.
You said if everybody chipped in.
Well, no, that's what that $1,600 number was trying to illustrate, to give people an idea of what the average cost. If everyone's sidewalk in the subdivision had a 40% replacement rate, the average cost to replace that sidewalk per property was about $1,600. Now we know that not every sidewalk flag needs to be replaced. And so the township is saying, we're going to pay for the soft costs, and the property owner is only going to have to pay for the sidewalk adjacent to their home that is replaced. So if you don't have any,
saying that if I don't need anything replaced in front of my house, the sidewalk adjacent to my property between the county road right away and my personal property, if I do not need one slab repaired at all, I am not charged, I am not assessed 1 penny.
correct.
Period.
Correct.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what he said.
Okay, so now who's paying for the engineer to come out and spray paint the sidewalk, make that? Who's paying for that?
Currently, under the proposal, the township board of trustees is saying that the township will pay for that.
Currently, So that's a proposed that could change.
I don't anticipate it changing, no. Unless the board decides to change that, that's the current position that they've taken.
So if the board changes it, then every homeowner is going to have to pay for an engineer to walk.
Believe they will, but if they do, the cost would be split amongst the people who have the slabs. In fact, I actually did the number. If you just put the cost, if we do the same estimate based on 40% of the slabs in the sub needing to be replaced, and you come up with the $245, the $245 per flag is for just the construction cost associated to the private property owners. If the township decides, for whatever reason, I don't think they will, but if they decided to throw all the costs in it, it puts the price of a flag up to $328. So I don't anticipate the township doing that. I don't see the township doing that, but that's what the cost difference would be. So the township is picking up the cost of engineering, construction oversight, assessment, materials testing, and the design.
So a flag, you're looking at a flag being, we're looking at $1,600, and you're saying a flag is $200
45.
For the con.
Because
More,
so the $1,600 was, you take the entire cost of 40% replacement of the entire set of sidewalk in the subdivision, and you divide that on the number of lots, you came up with the 1,600. It was just a rough estimate. If everyone's sidewalk needed to be, it was just to give people a ballpark figure. It's not the actual cost. There's not a bill going out for $1,600. We're only, if this program decided to go along with this program, you'd only pay for sidewalk that needed to be replaced in front of your property.
how do you know if it's your sidewalk or the township sidewalk? Because every sidewalk.
Township doesn't own any sidewalk.
Pardon me?
Township doesn't own any of the sidewalk.
No, I'm aware of that. It's a county sidewalk.
There'll be different colors.
Wait a minute, let me finish. It's a county sidewalk. However, the homeowner has the responsibility to maintain the sidewalk in front of their personal property.
Correct.
Okay, so how do you said that the engineer would come out and the engineer would mark green and another color. I don't remember your color. I apologize. All right. And one for the homeowner and one for the township.
Right.
Payment. That's what you said. How is it determined what slab is the homeowner's responsibility to repair and what slab is the township's responsibility?
Great question. I'll show you a really great example on this right here. See how there's a manhole that's causing the problem? That's related to the water and sewer. Those are marked for the township to replace.
Gotcha. All right. Now, I want to go, I'm good with that. Now, I have another question is that, pardon the clock. The other question is that there's an ordinance on the books right now, a general ordinance on the books.
Yep.
That clearly says that a homeowner is responsible to maintain their personal sidewalk in front of their home. Why is it that you're not utilizing and enforcing that ordinance that's on the books? Why is it that if that a homeowner who doesn't have slabs that need to be repaired are going through this, are having this pressure and stress put on them by the township, by the people sitting in these offices, and being led to believe in the letter and how it was written that this is going to affect every homeowner. As it said, if every homeowner across the board, and they're all going to be assessed at $1,600 for concrete only. So my question, why is this ordinance that's already on the book not being utilized?
I can't speak to why the ordinance hasn't been enforced in the past. What I can tell you is the township is committed to offering the residents of fixed.
But why can't they
Save a bunch
resonate?
of money by combining and doing an economy of scale.
Wait a minute. You're wanting to use, this is what you guys are doing. You have an ordinance on the book that clearly says that the ordinance officer who is employed, who is being paid to go out to and assess the sidewalks that are in disrepair and that need maintained. And that homeowner, you're saying, let me go back. Your statement was, this is a way the township is allowing homeowners in Haggerty sub to get their sidewalks repaired.
Correct.
So why is it that every homeowner has to go through this when every homeowner should not be held accountable or responsible for another homeowner's disrepair? And furthermore, that what you said, if 40% or whatever you said, that homeowner who owns a home can be responsible for their own property. They own it. They can afford, they can take care of their own sidewalk. They need to pay for their own sidewalk.
They absolutely can. The township's position here is clear.
But why? So then why can't
we decide to do this program, we're offering it's basically the township doesn't have to offer this program, nor does the township have to allow the cost of the sidewalks to be spread out over 4 years at 2% on the tax roll. The township doesn't have to do a contract for the sidewalk replacement so that the economy of scale makes this cost per slab go down. The township could just, technically, the way you're saying it, the township could just write tickets and make ordinance tickets and make people replace their sidewalks at the top down. Pathway for compliance to getting sidewalks safe is going to
why has an ordinance officer or a board member sitting in these parties sitting in their offices have been out walking Haggerty sub? I'm talking to the residents about this.
I think that's
and
why
why is it an ordinance officer is not out in saying,
right,
hey, here's the letter, you need to fix your sidewalk.
So
are you saying that person will not do it?
Is this Mrs. Dobbs? I think that's exactly why we're having this program. And
you're saying that the homeowner won't do it and the township doesn't want to force a homeowner to do it, but you're forcing them anyway. You're forcing a homeowner to fix their sidewalk and assess it against their personal property and putting the stress on every resident in this subdivision that doesn't need their sidewalks repaired, as opposed to enforcing a homeowner to fix their sidewalk under the ordinance, under the general ordinance that's already on the book.
Mrs. Dobbs,
is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I think it would be, I understand what you're saying. I think that the position and I think it's something that you and I might need to talk about offline a little bit more for the benefit of to give you the time that we need to kind of talk through this. And I'd be happy to meet with you tomorrow on the phone if you want to put,
I work.
well, I'd be happy to
So
talk to you after
if
work
you-
too, if you need to. I'm available in the evening to talk to you if you want. If you would, my email is on the website and you can contact me through the website, because I know I don't want you to give my phone number out or give your phone number to me over this. So
Don't do that.
if you want to email me and I will give you a call tomorrow, you just give me a good time. I don't have a meeting until 7:30 tomorrow. I'd be happy to talk through this more with you on that specific issue.
Okay,
Okay, because I want to make sure you
because
understand. what
I
we're
got
doing.
another question. I got one more question.
Sure.
The letter clearly states also is that the homeowner has a right to hire their own company.
Yes, they do.
How does that work? So if I went out,
You would pay for it. You would be invoiced and pay for it yourself, and the inspector, our inspector, would just verify that it was done meeting the standards, and then you'd be done. But you would be paying
what
for that yourself.
inspector?
The city inspector.
What is it? The ordinance officer inspector?
Oh, our
Who can't
engineer
come out
that's
and
doing,
fuck us up?
our engineer would come out at the end after your project, your individual private sidewalk replacement was done, to make sure it
Well,
was
are they
done
gonna
right
come out as soon as
and-
the company? Would they
and
come
get it
out as
in.
soon as the company finishes it?
Well, they
So
would
I
do
can,
it,
if I had 2 slabs that need to be fixed,
right? That's, I mean, it's a real specific question. I mean, I don't know what the timing would be. Probably. That's very specific. I'd have to, it depends on when we're doing the project. Like if you did it tomorrow, we wouldn't do it. I mean,
right. So if I hired a company, they came out, a legit company, came out and said, and I said, hey, look at the slabs, what needs to be fixed?
Yeah.
And they said, Brenda, you need to fix these 2 slabs
right,
that need to be addressed
right.
because they're broken. Now, they fix them. 2 slabs, they're gonna do within, an hour or so, right?
Sure.
Because it's a big company.
Okay.
They fix those. Now, is the engineer gonna come out and go, oh, you missed another slab?
Well, under our program, and
Am I gonna get jammed up because the township wants their
not gonna get
everybody
jammed
to
up.
get
Under the program, what we're recommending that residents decide to do if they're going to do their own sidewalk is to let our engineer come through and mark up the sidewalk, and then if they want to do their own, they would hire the contractor at that point to replace the ones that need to be replaced. So
and
that's
I'm
what
not gonna pay, and I'm not gonna pay for this engineer. Because
no,
you're telling me,
if you decide to do your own, you wouldn't be paying for it because the township is.
no, I'm not paying for the engineer because
Right.
this company,
We've said that, yes.
this company that's a big company, let's say a well-known company.
Right.
That's been
We wouldn't
around.
be paying for the engineer to assess it or to double check it.
Because you're telling me that the company I hire is not competent enough to.
I think Mrs. Dobbs, I think you and I are going to have a discussion tomorrow at a greater length. I think so. Okay. Please email me and we'll talk again tomorrow.
How can I call the township hall and say, hey, have you call me
Yes, absolutely. That's perfect.
during the day?
Yep. Just call the public services office, 734-699-8913.
Okay,
All right.
perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
All right. Next, we have a David Harwood, and you can unmute yourself.
Welcome back, David.
Thanks, sir. I just wanted to quick touch base and just thank you for reiterating everything a third and fourth time. But more than anything, I just wanted to check, because you had noted that the final vote would just be the determination of whether or not the subdivision wanted to go through. Do you guys have a ballpark idea when that's going to be? I know you probably were going to say that something.
It's really dependent on what the Board of Trustees decides
fair.
to do from the comments today. Some of them are here. Some of them are going to watch the recording later. But there will be additional opportunities to have your voice heard before the board votes.
Oh
So
yeah, no, I'm totally on board
I
with this.
just
I like
don't
this
know
entire idea.
when it's going to be.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, totally understand. I knew you guys have to go through your channels and see whether or not this was successful with this community, and probably you're going to do a handful of others of this, but
Well, I will also say this: if any resident has an issue with this or wants to promote their support of it, they can come to the board meeting on Tuesday night, May the 4th. Yes, and they can talk about it under public comment, non-agenda items, and they can make their voice heard then as well. So that's what the trustees are there for. The board of trustees is there to hear the people. That is also an opportunity if you don't want to wait.
perfect. Yeah, no, I actually have no problem with this. Initially there was a little skepticism with it, but with some of the changes and adjustments you guys have made from previous concerns, I totally like this new process.
Great. Thank you.
All right, now we have Justin Knott. You
Okay.
may unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, so I got a question based off of what the other gentleman had said about the 5x5 slab instead of based off of what the slab size actually is. I know you had stated that you were saying it was just an estimate.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean because it's an estimation, is that what you were going to go by, or is the pricing actually going to change when they come out and assess? So when they do a reassessment, they'll go off of the actual size of what's out here?
Yes.
Okay, and then my other question was, I know the other guy right before me kind of had stated something about voting and kind of final decision. So is this going to be a community vote deal, or is this going to be more based off of what you guys decide?
No. So that's why we're having this public meeting. So if you're for it or against it, and there'll be another opportunity to have your comments heard by the board. But this program really is going to be based on, there isn't a community vote per se, but the board of trustees that wants to hear everyone's comments. And so, and their questions, and get as many opportunities to get public input as possible. And so at the next meeting, May the 4th, on the township website, you can log in and be part of the public comment period. Or what's the most likely pathway is there'll be a meeting where the township board will discuss what happened in this meeting and talk amongst themselves where they're leaning. At that meeting, there'd be an opportunity to comment, and whether the board decides to move forward or not is really up to the board. It's not up to me. I'm not for or against this program. I'm just providing the facts. If we decided to do one that was beneficial to both the township and the residents, this is how we would do it. This is in our opinion, it's the best way to do it. I'm not for or against it. I'm trying to provide straight facts to you as best I can to give you the best information that's available. So I guess I can't tell you when that meeting is going to be, because the board of trustees might want to have another public meeting just like this one. There may be changes that we have to communicate. It's really dependent on what the residents say tonight and what the board of trustees decides to do in response to tonight's meeting.
Okay. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't necessarily disagree with this. I'm a little frustrated with the way that this is coming about, because I kind of feel like we're more being pushed into it than anything. I do agree with the last lady where she said, you know, we do have an ordinance officer who drives around in a car every week in this neighborhood. I don't understand why we haven't been enforcing, you know, violations on homeowners that have bad sidewalk, because there are some homes in here that have really bad sidewalk.
Sure.
Luckily, my sidewalk's not terrible. When I bought my home and moved in here, it was back when you guys were taking out trees because there was trees dying and stuff like that at the road.
Yeah.
And you guys were replanting some of the trees. Well, the old tree that was here had tore up my sidewalk. I got some uneven spots. So I do have some they're not bad, but there are some gaps. So I guarantee I'm going to be on the list for people who have to get stuff fixed.
Right.
But my concern is that we do have an ordinance officer that we're paying for to have come out and do these things that haven't been doing them. And now everybody's getting pushed into something in this situation where either it's going to go or it's not going to go. If it does, we don't have a say so. You're going to put it either on, we got 90 days to pay it, or you're going to add it to our property tax. Irregardless, we have no choice in this. It's just going to get put on us if that's what's going to happen. So, I really do think that if we're going to go forward with this program, then we really should make sure that every resident in this neighborhood knows about it and everybody voices their opinion on this. This shouldn't just be something where we get this in the mail like we did and hope to God everybody looked at it. If not, it just goes through. Oh, well. We really need to make sure that if we're going to do this, we need to make sure all the members of this neighborhood are involved in this, because with COVID just passing and the way we were shut down for so long, I am not necessarily terribly hurt by it financially, but my grandfather lives in this neighborhood. He's elderly. My mother's on disability that lives in this neighborhood, who also has sidewalk that'll need to be replaced. She was financially hurt with COVID and everything. I mean, I know a lot. I've lived in this neighborhood my entire life. I grew up in this neighborhood. I've only lived in this sub. So I know a lot of people in this neighborhood, and I know a lot of people who are negatively affected by this program, especially if we're going to get hit with potentially $1,200 to $1,600 per lot. You're talking about a lot of money. I mean, if I had for some windows or some other things that are really important, and then I can focus on sidewalk.
Agreed.
And my next question too is that, I know Wayne County is responsible for like Haggerty Road and then some of the roadways in here, but we're focusing on sidewalk because it's a trip hazard. Well, I live in here and I live on Jackson Street, and these kids that walk up and down here do not use the sidewalk. They're walking in the street. Right on the one side of my driveway is a big pothole. That's a trip hazard. Why are we not focusing on things like that too? Why are we focusing on sidewalk only? It's something that's going to be my responsibility. Why not we focus on some of the Wayne County stuff? I can't even drive down Haggerty Road. It's so bad.
Well, I will tell you that Haggerty Road from Tyler to, is it Tyler? Yeah, Tyler to 94 is going to be resurfaced. It was just announced through SEMCOG as in the transportation grant program. So they're going to be a mill and fill, and so both sides will be redone. So that's something that is encouraging news. The county is going to be paying for that. In terms of why the township is involved here, because we have some jurisdiction and liability to do this, and quite frankly, the sidewalks need to be done, and this is a way to do it and make the payment as easy as for the residents who are responsible for the sidewalk, to make it as easy as we can under the conditions, with the potential to do it over 4 years at 2%, rather than having people have to replace it individually, which would be extremely expensive. So in terms of fixing the roads, if you have complaints about Wayne County roads, so do we. And every day we call and talk. Someone from our office is calling and talking with Wayne County to get this fixed or that fixed. The supervisor of the township, as well as the trustees, contact our commissioners, our commissioner Alhaidas, and county staff almost weekly about one issue or another. But if you have an issue with the roadway or the curb or a tree, the best way to get it resolved is to contact Wayne County through their hotline, which is on our website. You have to call and get the service number. Unfortunately, because we don't have any jurisdiction or ability to enact anything on the roadway, the best we can do is lobby and be a pest to get the county to fix these things, and we are trying every day. And I understand the concern. The difference between the sidewalk and the road is that what we're trying to do with this program isn't force people to fix anything. It has to get fixed one way or another to be safe. We're trying to find a way to get it as cheap as we can and basically finance it for the residents so that we can lower the hit of the cost. So that's the best answer I can give you, Justin.
I do have one more question,
Sure.
and this should pretty much wrap me up, honestly. But I know that I have seen there are some programs out here now where if you have sidewalk that's uneven, they have product out now where they can literally come out and drill a pilot hole through your sidewalk and spray a solution under it to level it out and then reseal it. Is that something that's been an option? I mean, is that anything that's even been discussed? Is that even a cheaper option for some people? I mean, in my instance, my sidewalk condition is amazing. It's just some places settled and sank, and then the old tree that used to be in my yard when I first moved in that was removed lifted up 2 slabs of concrete.
So concrete leveling for the sidewalk is not something that we considered. It is not something our engineers are recommending as part of this program. I can ask again between now and the next meeting, but I do not think it would be part of this program. Because the sidewalk is nearing the end of its design useful life, once you have a failure, it's better to replace it than to level it, basically. But that's something I can ask and have a better answer for you next time, Justin.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I just thought maybe if that is a cheaper method that can help out some of the other homeowners in the community that are struggling, and that helps us on cost, then I think that would be, at least bring it up, something that is options.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
I think Kevin's been waiting there for a while. Ah, there he is.
And then all you have to do, Kevin, is unmute yourself.
Yes. Am I there?
Yes.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi. First of all, you're to be commended for your patience. I would like to know if all the 716 lots you say that are in this subdivision, I do know of 2 that have been demolished and removed.
Right.
Are those lots going to be equated into this figuring of the totaling?
Well, only
balance.
Well, yes. If they have slabs in front of them, they'll be to be replaced. Those property owners will be charged for those slabs.
Okay. Well, it'll be the bank owns those lots at this point, I imagine, but still.
Right.
Yeah. So then you're specifying these slabs to be 5 foot wide, and
for the
I don't believe any
estimate.
of the slabs in this subdivision are 5 foot wide. Mine are measuring 4 foot, and they vary in length anywhere from 3 to 5. So if you're saying that you're going to replace a slab, does that mean that you're going to go, just a small amount then? You're not going to have like go from a 5 foot to a 4 footer to a 5 footer, make that jagged edge along the edge?
Nope.
Nothing of that nature.
They're going to be slightly bigger because they're going to be just slightly. And then we're going to try to match them up with the existings. We had to assume a uniform size based on industry standards to use the best estimates and numbers we could.
Sure. Okay.
And the price,
since
they're smaller, the price will go down. So.
Right. I appreciate the service of getting them all done. I don't know if I agree with doing the handicap curbs, but at the same time, that's something that is needed, I think, for the future. It's a realistic need, and therefore I agree with doing it as long as it's on the county to take that bill into hand, because that's out and beyond what us private owners are doing.
Sure.
Now, is that where that's going to stand? Is that going to be on the county to take on that cost?
I said this in the beginning. I'm not sure how we're going to handle those. The township may cover that. It just depends on where they are and what the board decides to do, because any cost taken on by the board of trustees would have to be approved by the board of trustees. So any cost taken on by the township would have to be approved. I don't know if the county is going to pay for sidewalks. I don't think they do it at any other community. The The one thing that we have in our favor is that the supervisor of the township and the board of trustees are real warriors when it comes to the current crop of them. They are real warriors when it comes to getting the county to do things for the residents of Van Buren. So, and I'm not just saying that because I work there. I'm saying that because I've seen examples. So if it's possible to get the county to help fund some of these, you have the right people in place to try and succeed. So we'll see.
Okay. The only other thing is that the homeowners that own corner lots are going to be the ones that feel the biggest debt on this whole ordeal. Am I right?
That's correct. Unfortunately, that's correct.
Because I mean, all this time you've been saying the sidewalk in front of your house. Well, probably 3/4 to 7/8 of us in this subdivision only have a front section. Mine, I live on a court, so I have a total of 8 slabs out in front of my house versus a guy on a corner who has, well, who knows how many, plus going to the curb on the corner.
Right.
So
that's why we're having a meeting today to talk about issues just like that and bring them to the attention.
Gotcha.
There's not much I can do. The property frontage sidewalk is the responsibility of the adjacent property owner. So the best way we can do it is get the best price we can through the economy of scale and to finance it. So that's the best we can.
Okay. Well, there's only one other issue that I had with sidewalk replacement, and it really doesn't have anything to do with the misalignments of the slabs and all that at this point in time. But a while back, the township had an issue with more incoming water into the sewage system than what was being drawn away from the water department.
Right.
So what they figured was that they came in, and I have one of these manholes out in front of my house. They came in, they removed 2 slabs of concrete by that manhole.
Right.
And what they did was they raised it up enough to shift the water to shed away from the manhole versus holding the water towards the manhole.
Right.
Well, in regards to that, the slabs that were there never collected water for the shift water into those manholes to begin with. So whoever the engineer was that went around doing that, it was senseless. And the fact of the matter is that I'm not going to pinpoint any one particular resident for doing this, but if the township can't figure out how that excess water is getting into that system, I've got a real good notion as to how it's doing it.
Well, let's do this. As we move forward in this process, you can contact the water and sewer department, and we can work with you to resolve that issue.
Sure, absolutely.
All right.
And once again, you're to be commended for your patience.
No problem. That's why I'm here.
All right.
The questions that I can.
All right.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right. Very good.
I think Kay Hood was next.
Yep, and you may unmute yourself.
Hello again. I knew
Hello.
you'd be back.
I'm very pro for this sidewalk program.
Right.
I have to say. I understand the rest of the residents in this subdivision's concerns.
Mm-hmm.
The 4-foot slab versus the 5-foot slab in today's standards is different. This isn't it's a pretty old sub. I don't want to talk about the age difference in the subdivision, but I think everybody gets on board. That's all I got, it needs to be done. And as far as the ADA, that really needs to be done. And hopefully we can get the county on board for that.
We shall see. Thank you.
Yep.
I think I think I have Justin, and then we'll go to the chat comments and try to get through the ones that are on the chat. So Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just had one more question I meant to ask earlier. You said that there is a meeting on Tuesday of the 4th.
Sure, it's a standard Board of Trustees meeting. And so if you go to the township's brand new website and go to meetings, agendas and meetings, in fact, Ryan can probably put that link in the chat for you so you can find it.
Okay.
So you just go to that and then you can log in that night at 6 o'clock and have an opportunity to say, if you want to say something under public comment, non-agenda items, you will be able to.
Okay, I was just gonna ask what time it was because I was curious. I meant to ask that when I had your attention earlier.
Yeah, it's at 6 o'clock and it's on Zoom and it's also simulcast on YouTube live.
Okay.
So, all right. I'm going to go to the chat real quick and just try to zip through these so that everyone's comments are heard. And I've answered as much as I can. Why fix the sidewalks when the people walk in the street if the sidewalks are good or not? The sidewalks we have a legal responsibility to make sure that residents maintain their sidewalks, and the property owners have a legal responsibility to maintain them. So that's good sidewalks make better communities, walkable, bikeable, strollerable. I don't know if that's a word. I'm sure Rosemary will put in the paper that I said strollerable, but we want to be able to have people pushing strollers and wagons. And do they even have big wheels anymore? That's why sidewalks are important. They create connectivity. And so that's why. When we are worried about sidewalks, when Haggerty Road is destroyed, I think I talked about how Wayne County and the townships push, the board and the supervisor have pushed to get Wayne County to fix Haggerty Road from Tyler to I-94, and that should happen this year. What about going around tree roots? We will cut tree roots and we will give property owners the guidance to keep that tree alive. How much rise or drop is associated with flagging? We kind of talked about that. I'll have more specific information when we get closer. Do you have we live on a corner lot on Tompkins and Kennedy. We have cracks and 10 slabs. Do we have the option to pay to replace slabs that aren't there? That's something that a lot of people have asked. So if they're not marked, but you want to replace them anyway, that's something that we can talk about as a possibility. But you would be paying for those costs yourself through the program. So it's directly charged to you. So I don't see why not, but we'll talk about that as if we decide to move forward. That's definite possibility. What is the relationship of the chosen contractors and the board? What is the oversight? We haven't chosen any contractors, and we're not going to choose any contractors or we're going to actually go out to open bid on what's called BidNet. And this is something that the Board of Trustees actually believes very highly in. We put onto the internet at a Michigan, it's a state-run bid process where you put your bid online and companies from the region and all over the state can bid on it. And so you get the best price then you can select who you want based on price and their application. So I think it's one of the fairest ways to bid and get the best price for projects. And so I think it's a great question. But we won't select any contractors or anyone to do the work until well after the decision is made whether to move forward with this or not. What about a millage? Couldn't this expense be shared via tax? That is a question for the Board of Trustees to answer at the meeting tomorrow or on Tuesday. However, I can tell you that it is the responsibility of the individual property owner to fix the sidewalks in front of their home, on their properties, adjacent to their properties. And having a millage or a tax for that isn't something, it would be public dollars paying for private properties. So for the construction of something like that. So it's tricky. That's a question that would have to be answered at the board. What is the court decision you cited? I knew someone was going to ask that. It was in 1990. It started in Redford and it ended in Canton. And that's something I can provide further on, but yes, that's a good question. Why do you think we're liable for property that isn't ours? Because the court said you're responsible for maintaining it. And then the court said we're responsible, even though we don't own the sidewalk, own the road, or own your property, the township is responsible for making sure you maintain the sidewalk. So people could start saving with the project with this 2-year plan. That's a comment. Reggie Miller says, good evening, everyone. Curb cutouts. The curbs don't slope down. Please they're basically saying do the curb cuts. Because there's no slope for the curb. That's something we're in discussion with. Is raising the slabs an acceptable solution for leveling for people riding and they're is raising the slabs an acceptable solution to leveling for the people riding their mini bikes down the road instead of using a sidewalk? I talked about leveling as not really being an option, but we'll talk to the engineer about that. Would postponing the work until the contractor's supply costs come down possible? If the township decides to move forward, we would move forward and get the best price we could at the time. You can't wait around for prices to drop because they may never, and then you never fix it. So do you feel there's a higher burden on people with corner lots, higher burden of cost? Yes, unfortunately, yes. Maybe we should wait until 2024 for better rates. Unfortunately, with the responsibility the township has, if the township decides to move forward, we would move forward. If we don't, that would be up to the board to decide what other options are on the table. I just remember my sidewalk slab is 4 feet by 4 feet. That's adding extra cost. No, I'm not adding any extra cost. What I'm doing, and that's Mr. Dobbs, so we're going to talk to him. It's just an estimate. The cost is based on square footage. And if that's the case, and it is 4 feet by 4 feet, and we're very close to that, it's going to be a little bit bigger because it's going to be newer. It'll actually end up being cheaper than the estimate. Will the project take into consideration curbs that lead to crossing roads? Yes, maybe. We're going to talk about that, and I'm going to bring back a report. If the tree root work does cause a tree to die in the right of way, who do we call to remove it? You would call Wayne County. Their forestry department would come and remove it, but then they want you to, then it would be replaced. If I decide to fix my sidewalk on my own in the next few months, would the township assist me in which ones to replace? That's a great question from K-Step. I don't know. Maybe. I think that's something we might be able to provide. That's a question for the Board of Trustees to discuss if that's a service they want to provide to the residents. It's possible. And it makes sense. Why would we? But yeah, that's possible. Do we get to have a vote on this? Unfortunately, your homeowner association, if you have one, which I don't think you do, you could as a group get together and comment at these public meetings and public hearings, but the board ultimately decides whether or not to move down this pathway to offer this opportunity to the residents. So your best option to get your voices heard is to go to the board meetings and comment, contact your trustees, contact your supervisors. We have to do the walks. They are dangerous. Are there federal grants available for ADA installs? Yes, there are, but I don't know if we qualify. We're working on that right now to see what we qualify for. Let's see. If we do them ourselves, is mudjacking and acceptable for repair? I'm going to say off the top of my head, no. And it may not last long enough. But I will ask my engineer about whether mudjacking is an acceptable repair. I don't think it is. From what I know of the procedure, I don't think it would be. Sounds like the contractor plans to charge for a foot of sidewalk that is not there. Does that sound like fraud to you? No, it's just an estimate. And it's probably going to be 4 foot and an inch by 4 foot and an inch. And you'll only pay for what we put in. What if we don't want any sidewalk at all? Like it in my house, I don't have any sidewalk in front of my house. I don't really want it. However, my subdivision was not planned with the sidewalk in the site plan. Van Buren Estates was, and so that sidewalk is required for you to continue to have. So that's not really negotiable there. Let's see. Why can't the slabs be raised concrete levelers? I'm going to ask that question, but I don't think it's a option. Nicholas says, Matthew, thank you for explaining the pilot program. My wife and I are in favor of it, especially because it is difficult to walk with our young son to the subdivision. That's stroller ability. With all the bad sections of sidewalk, we are also in favor of ADA transitions at crosswalks. This is a worthwhile investment. K-Step says, if my tree ended up dead, who pays for it to be removed? If it's on your side, you pay for it. If it's on the county side, the county's potentially responsible for paying for it. However, they have been making some instances, they make the homeowners pay. That's a question that's still up in the air, and we're trying to get that answered. My root is quite large and looks like the tapper roots go straight down. So nothing will help stay alive if the tapper is cut. My understanding is tap roots go straight down. If we have an issue like that, we can talk about it. Seems like the township has neglected this issue for decades. Now it's over $1 million to fix. How much did the township spend on an ordinance officer to not do his job for 20 years? Fair. I can't speak for what happened in the past. I can only look forward to what we can do to help you in the future. And so that's why we're here today, offering you an opportunity to take advantage of a potential program that could save you money and get the sidewalks fixed. Shannon says, I'm in support of this program. This is way more affordable than most people. If you were to hire private contractors, especially being rapid into the taxes for 4 years, I don't know if I'd be able to cover the costs on my own. This makes it manageable. Sidewalks are bad. We walk it a couple times a day, and I have twisted my ankle more. And that is an average homeowner that worries me. I will say that, let's see what else here. Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. K-Hood, this is a good meeting. Can Sherry Upstraw ask a great question? Can you mention some of the communities you took into account to compare programs? The first one right off the top is Canton Township. They have a program very similar to this. They also looked at, I think, Farmington Hills, and there was 2 other ones. Off the top of my head, those are the 2 I remember. Let's see what else. Let's see, let me just make sure I get this one. Okay, I just wrote that down. Can you mention? Okay, I did that. We're almost there. We're in the home stretch. I'd rather pay for a bid rate. Much rather pay for a bid rate. I don't know what that means. There's no HOA here. I am aware. Do not agree with that comment. I don't know what that means. Clarification of details makes me feel better about this. This is from Tetcher 365. The 1600 letter had me up in arms. I have a better understanding and I'm in favor of the program. From K-Step is my understanding of sidewalk issues were a tree planting issues when the sub was built, just like the SO lines collapsed. Because of this, I agree this is a program at a good price. Oh, bid rate for replacement. I get it. Must rather play for bid rate for replacement. Got it. Okay. Those are all the questions in the chat. And I want to thank everyone for sticking it out. I especially want to thank Treasurer Bud, Trustee Martin, Trustee Miller, and Supervisor McNamara for also attending. And for those of you that have stuck with us, because those were the people that were, those were your elected officials that were here tonight. Those are the first I would say to go to, because they've heard the comments, they've heard what you've said, and those are the people that can best help you initially answer the questions that you might still have of the township. I'm also available at the Township Hall at my phone number and my email. The best way to get a hold of me, the best way to get a hold of Director Best is an email. My email is mbest@vanburen-mi.org. But we also have another way. Ryan Nichols, who is our moderator with the lowercase m today, should be a capital M. You can go to our social media pages and our Facebook, Instagram, Smug Mug, whatever. You can comment through our social media and get comments to us as well. You can also phone us. Not only do those messages get to me, but they also get to our trustees and our elected officials. So with that, and one last, Larry said, do we look for any grant money? There isn't any grant money for what we're doing right now, the sidewalk replacement. So with that, I would like to thank everyone for participating in this long journey. We're coming in earlier than I thought. Next steps. Like I said, contact myself, contact the trustees, contact the supervisor's office. That's why they're there. That's why I'm here tonight. And stay tuned on our website for more information. When the time comes for another meeting, we will send out alerts through the email, and also that'll be in the paper and through our social media with Ryan Nichols. So with that tonight, I would like to thank everyone for participating and say thank you, Van Buren Estates, Haggerty Sub, for participating. Hopefully we can find a pathway to help fix the sidewalks and make it the best for everyone. So thank you very much and have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And again, vanburen-mi.org is our website where all of this information and all contact information can be found. Feel free to visit that site for any other information. Thank you so much. Have a great night.